So do you guys remember my video entitled "The Kimber Solo Sucks"? This is James Reeves from TFBTV, and yes, I owned and reviewed Kimber's first alloy frame striker-fired single-stack handgun several years ago, the Kimber Solo. Mine was abysmal. It had to go back to the factory 3 times, and even when it worked, it was extremely unpleasant to shoot. I would even put a glove on for extended range sessions. Fortunately, Kimber put the Solo in the mass grave / landfill of unloved and discontinued guns right next to the poor Hudson H9 and the equally terrible Browning High Power. So I imagine when I sent my request into Kimber to review the Evo that they were a little reluctant to send me the new gun, but I suppose the best way to turn heads is to impress one of your detractors. So here's the story with the new Evo. Like the Solo, the Evo is an alloy frame striker-fired handgun. Many of you are probably asking now, just as you did with the Solo, what does this gun do that the Glock 43 or the Smith & Wesson Shield don't do? The answer? Absolutely nothing. But just because the Evo or the Solo before arguably offer no real performance advantages over a single-stack polymer frame striker-fired handgun like the 43 or the Shield that cost half as much, that really isn't the draw. And I'm going to take Kimber's side on this argument. Some people want an alloy frame single-stack 9mm instead of plastic, and I don't blame them. Other people may want what I like to call a tuxedo gun. That is a gun akin to the HKP7 or the Walther PPK. Basically something that's classier than regular plastic. All things being equal, I think these are excellent reasons to look at an all-metal single-stack gun. I'm also somewhat unfairly misrepresenting the advantages that the Evo offers over conventional and less expensive plastic guns. Unlike the Solo, the Evo's features are geared towards concealed carry, and they address the perceived needs of the modern concealed carrier better. Unlike many guns in this class, the Evo has very aggressive forward slide serrations, whereas the Solo had somewhat of a slippery finish and not as aggressive slide serrations. Many competitors have no forward slide serrations at all. My copy of the Evo came with excellent night sights that used a rear U-notch sight that, again, like forward slide serrations, is very much in vogue in 2019. That is the U-notch compared to its square competitors. The machining on the frame is also extraordinary and really well thought out. There's good contouring near the trigger guard and a very comfortable trigger guard undercut, which the Solo didn't have. The front strap is not only attractive, but functional with very high-resolution checkering. The Evo grip panels are also tasteful and functional, and the Evo ships with several different sizes and thicknesses of grip panel. Further, the Evo, unlike the Solo, has a replaceable back strap. The Evo also has striations along the top of the slide to reduce glare. It's got a height of 4 inches, a weight of 19 ounces, which is about the same as the Glock 43 or the Shield, an overall length of 6.1 inches, a magazine capacity of 7 rounds of 9mm, and a width of 1.06 inches, again, roughly the same as its competition. The frame is aluminum alloy and the slide is stainless steel. So, that's all the features, but how did it shoot? Well, most importantly, unlike my Solo, the Evo was 100% reliable. We shot inexpensive reloads and regular range ammunition from Ventura Munitions. If any of you recall anything about that damned Kimber Solo, then you're already surprised, because some of you may recall the Solo would only function reliably with premium 147 grain hollow point. There's no such restriction with the Evo, and it pushed everything we put through it. We shot the Evo at the St. Bernard Indoor Shooting Center with experienced shooting staff that works there, and no one had a bad thing to say about the Evo, other than the fact that our copy seemed to shoot a little high and required a deep 6 hold. But to be fair, this varied among the shooters. Several of the shooters said they felt the Kimber recoiled less than other polymer frame handguns. In my experience, the more rigid frame aluminum single stacks don't necessarily have a lesser recoil impulse than their polymer brethren because of the rigidity of the frame. For that matter, the Solo was just plain uncomfortable to shoot, period, end of story. But the Evo was at least as comfortable to shoot as anything else in its class, and possibly easier according to some of the other shooters there. Something about the contour of the grip tang and perhaps the removable backstrap made this gun much more comfortable than the Solo. All told, it was a very accurate gun, and the guys at St. Bernard definitely did some damage with it. Trigger pull weight is about 6.5 pounds, but the trigger pull was definitely better than any of the standard polymer frame subcompacts out there. I emphasize the word pull because the reset was somewhat lackadaisical. I recently ran into the same issue with the SIG 320 where I just felt like the trigger didn't give you enough forward pressure when you release the trigger and you search for the reset. Ironically, I consider the Glock 43 to have a so-so trigger pull, but the reset on the 43 or perhaps the SIG P365 just might be the gold standard for trigger reset. Speaking of the 43, Glock did such great work with the 43 that they created the de facto mold for the single-stacked subcompact 9mm. Just like the Mossberg MC1, which actually accepts Glock 43 mags, the Kimber is virtually identical to the Glock 43 in size, weight, and dimension, but it might even be a little bit thinner. For what it's worth, the Evo definitely doesn't accept Glock 43 mags, as they were way too fat to fit in the mag well. Now, as to the controls, the magazine release was comfortable and worked very well. No complaints, great checkering on it. The slide release is one of the best in its class. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't think of a polymer frame subcompact that has a slide release that I like better than this one. The slide release is what you use when you need to take down the gun, and disassembly is very easy. And if you're familiar with the 1911 style slide lock, this is right up your alley. So shooting performance was very good. If you really want to get the Evo, then just stop the review here because I think you're going to be perfectly happy with it. I have a few negative observations, as I do with every gun I review on TFBTV, but if you're looking for the true successor to the Solo, the Evo is it. So about those negative observations, the Evo, like many German pistols including the HKVP9, has a pointless hole in the back of the slide that shows you that the striker is indeed cocked. I say worthless because it doesn't tell you if the gun's loaded or not, just if it's cocked, and I don't see what the point is. But in the meantime, it serves as a point of entry for dirt and moisture. Fortunately, the hole in the back of the Evo is minuscule, unlike the VP9 indicator. Also, as I mentioned, it shot a little bit high. By far, though, my biggest pet peeve, by a huge margin, is the fact that this gun comes with two magazines that have extended base plates, making this a 7+1 gun instead of a 6+1. Standard practice these days seems to be to include a flush-fit 6+1 magazine for deeper concealment and a 7+1 magazine with a grip extension. Here, you get no choice. Although I'm sure that ultimately the Evo will have flush-fit magazines available, at this point it really raises the question as to why Kimber didn't just go Sir Mix-a-Lot on you guys and make the butt a little bit bigger so you could just get a full grip on the frame. Of course, as with most 6+1s, you'd be dangling a pinky if you use a flush-fit magazine as is, but I think many carriers like myself would have preferred to have the option for deeper concealment like the 6+1 Glock 43, or a larger frame like the 7+1 flush-fit Smith & Wesson Shield, rather than just having two extended mags forced upon us. Finally, poor people look out because the base model Evo I tested started at $856 MSRP, and some of the Evo models exceed $1,000 MSRP. There are 4 different trim levels to choose from, and all are very attractive. I'm really not sure that expense is a legitimate grounds for complaint, considering all the features that come with this gun. At $850 MSRP, call it $750 street price, you're getting a lot of options, and you got to look at the fact that alloy frames are just going to be more expensive than plastic frames, and people want alloy frames. Not to mention, when you throw Kimber on the side, the price goes up 25%. To an extent, Kimber's a little like the Boston Whaler of guns now, and I don't mean that as an insult, but it's not a huge compliment either. In either case, yes, it's expensive, but you're kind of getting what you pay for here. Did the Kimber Solo suck? Yes, indeed it did. Good riddance. Is the Evo better than a Solo? Definitely, but then again, that doesn't say much. I think the Japanese Nambu or a Polish Makarov would give the Solo a run for its money. The fact of the matter is, as far as alloy single-stack striker-fired 9mm go, and we're talking about a very shallow pool here, the Evo might be on top of it. Probably on features, but certainly in price. In fact, I'm not sure that it has any competition in either respect. As I said earlier in the video, if you listen to the feature set and you like what you heard, and you don't mind shelling out a rack for a handgun, the Evo, unlike its predecessor, is actually a very good gun. Technically, this is the Kimber Evo SP which stands for Striker Pistol, but I think it should be the Evo SR because this little guy was Kimber's own Shawshank Redemption. So thank you and that cupcake on the wall for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, Ventura Munitions and Blue Alpha Gear, and I will see you next week, Fuzzy Britches.